fallen warriors. I want to bring in CNN's Caitlin Collins from the White House. Caitlin.
Yeah, Jake, obviously that moment in the press conference today is just part of the many questions that this White House has been facing about what's next in Iran, what the United States wants to see next when it comes to leadership there, and obviously what the plan is for current service members that are in the forces in terms of what that's going to look like with the campaign. As they say, it's only accelerating, whether or not there'll be boots on the ground. But this premise of the question, given what the secretary said this morning, which was pretty blunt, Jake, and also, I should note, seemed to be coming from his prepared remarks. It wasn't a comment that Hegseth seemed to make off the cuff to the reporters who were gathered there at the Pentagon this morning, often one of the best press corps in town that asked the most questions about what exactly is happening here. And so I wanted to follow up with the White House on that, given, obviously, when the president goes and attends the dignified transfer of those 6 fallen service members, CNN and other media outlets will carry it, as we always do. It's an incredibly somber and solemn ceremony, typically where their families are present there in these moments. And so I asked the press secretary if that was a viewpoint that the White House agreed with in terms of what the coverage of these deaths should look like. Here's more of what Caroline Leavitt said to me.
I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please, that's not
making the President look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the President look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree.
Jake, I think it obviously goes without saying, as you just noted there, that covering the deaths of these service members has nothing to do with President Trump himself personally, just as it didn't with other presidents. I mean, they are the commander-in-chief. There are real questions about what's happening in Iran and what the United States is planning to do. But anytime a service member dies, we cover it, and we did so when it was President Biden at the Abbey Gate. I was standing here on the North Lawn when that happened, and I remember that. And also in President Trump's first term. And so it's just a fact of covering the Pentagon, covering Washington, and obviously covering the ultimate sacrifice that these U.S. service members have made here.
It really is the height of solipsism and narcissism to think that our coverage of fallen warriors has anything to do with how we cover a president. I'm just utterly shocked that Hegseth and now Caroline Leavitt are saying it. I don't even really know what to say. It's so offensive. I don't care what they think about us. It's so offensive to the families who deserve coverage. There's one thing that you can say about the news media, or just this country. We don't pay enough attention as a nation to fallen veterans. There should be more coverage, whoever's in the building behind you. Caitlin Collins at the White House, thank you so much.
As tensions in the Middle East continue to rise, the White House is facing mounting questions about the United States' strategy toward Iran and what the next phase of the conflict might look like. During a press briefing, officials acknowledged that the U.S. military campaign connected to Iran is intensifying. Reporters pressed the administration for details about whether the escalation could eventually lead to American ground troops being deployed, a possibility that remains a major concern both in Washington and among military families. At the same time, the issue has become deeply personal for the nation. The president is expected to attend a dignified transfer ceremony honoring 6 American service members who lost their lives. These solemn ceremonies, held when fallen troops return home, are traditionally covered by national media as a way to recognize the sacrifice made by service members and their families. But the coverage itself has now become part of a political dispute. During an exchange with reporters, the White House press secretary accused certain media outlets of using nearly every development, including the deaths of U.S. troops, to portray the administration negatively. The statement triggered an immediate response from journalists present at the briefing. Reporters pushed back strongly, arguing that coverage of fallen soldiers is a long-standing responsibility of the press and not connected to the politics of any particular president. Historically, such coverage has occurred under both Republican and Democratic administrations, including during major military incidents in previous presidencies. For many journalists, reporting on these ceremonies is meant to honor the ultimate sacrifice made by service members rather than to assign political blame. That point was emphasized during the discussion, with reporters noting that military casualties are covered consistently regardless of who occupies the White House. The exchange reflects a broader tension that often emerges during wartime, the balance between government messaging, media scrutiny, and public accountability. As the conflict involving Iran evolves, those tensions may only grow stronger. For now, the focus remains on the human cost of military action and the families waiting to receive their loved ones at home.